It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to. Lots to talk about. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy gave in and, well, has started an impeachment inquiry, which I got to tell you should be entertaining, should be interesting. To see all of the backbiting Trump wannabes jockeying for their 7-second sound bites. That's going to be the part that I find interesting. And look, we'll see. We'll see what they come up with. They've got nothing, but we'll see where this takes us. And we'll talk about that. We'll get to some of that. I've got some thoughts later, but that's not my top story today. Top story today: Census Bureau. The Census Bureau today came out with some reporting that says poverty jumped to 12.4% in 2022, up from 7.8 in 2021. Poverty among children more than doubled. And you go, well, why'd that happen? Well, how? It's Joe Biden's fault. No, it's not Biden's fault. It's because we've got Republicans who demanded an end to the supplemental child tax credit. You know, that $250 a month for kids over 6 to $300 a month for kids under 6. You know, that stuff that was supposed to make sure that your kids didn't go hungry. And what we found we can end poverty. We can. We found it out. We figured out how to do it. You fund it. And we found out how to make poverty worse. You also couple that with with more Census Bureau bad news. U.S. Inflation-adjusted incomes in the U.S. have fallen for the third straight year. And we're impeaching Biden for who knows what. I know his kid had a laptop and is a degenerate. Maybe that's what it is. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot about laptops. We'll probably see Hunter's junk again because that's the best they've got. But understand, the people who demanded an end to this meager program to help make sure that children don't go to bed hungry, these are people who thrive on desperation. They thrive on misery. And, I think back to, to George Carlin, who, again, the more you look at Carlin, and I was a huge Carlin fan as a kid, the more you look at what Carlin had to say over the years, go back to the 90s, he had hit the nail on the head when he said, look, the rich, they take all the money, they do none of the work. The middle class does all of the work, pays all of the taxes, and the poor are there to keep those middle class people showing up to those crummy jobs. And you go, that's reality. And I keep saying, and I've said this for a very long time, you have a Republican Party that hates working people. Clear, simple, to the point. They hate working people. Look at what they do. Not what they say, not, oh, how much we care. We love the children. We love the babies. Oh, we want to make sure babies are born. But what have you done to help feed them, to help clothe them, to help get them the health care, the education? What have you done? Oh, that's right, nothing. And my mind goes into these really angry places because for me, it's very simple. And it comes back to 8th grade civics class. The teacher going, look, at the end of the day, when I asked, which party do you find yourself? How do you figure this out? And they said, well, you think about it this way. It depends on where you are. Are you closer to being rich or closer to being poor? And I was actually poor at the time. I said, well, poor. He goes, well, then, Democrats, because they support programs to help feed the poor, which things that I benefited from. Or if you're a Republican, you're for the very rich and tax breaks and individual, hooray for me, and the heck with everyone else. Then that's where you go. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you got to decide which you want to pay for, because you're going to pay for both. And that was the key in this, because I'm solidly in the middle, maybe a little bit upper of the middle. But I still think that we don't let children go to bed hungry. We don't let workers get screwed every time they turn around. And it's why I'm a union person, because I understand which side I'm on. I believe in hard work. I believe in jobs being the best anti-poverty program, which I've amended to union jobs being the best anti-poverty program. Yes, I believe in contracts for workers because I know when an employer falls on hard times, when things are a little touchy, it's going to be my kids are going to go hungry. It's going to be working people's kids who are going to go hungry. So when I saw this billionaire or this CEO, his name's Tim Gurner. He is the founder and CEO of the Gurner Group. He was given a little spiel, and this, now understand, we were talking about the Writers Guild strike not too long ago and said that, one of the executives is quoted saying the strike will go on as long as people are still in their homes. We want them to lose their mortgages, their apartments. We want them to suffer. We want them to struggle. We want pain. And look, that's every strike. That's not just unique to this one. But you don't know who that guy was. Well, our guy Tim Gurner here went and had while doing an interview on a panel, had the, well, I'm not going to say good sense, but went on to, I got to play the clip. I mean, you got to hear this for yourself. Here's Tim.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided that they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
We've got to kill that attitude that workers value their lives and their time. We got to kill that because, you working people, you're not doing a lot, but you're expecting a lot. You've got lazy. And I ask you, working folk, remember when you were essential? Remember when you were a frontline hero? Remember when you were doing your patriotic duty, going out there, making guys like this their profits? Remember when we were feeding the billionaires so they could stay home and stay safe? Yeah. Again, this is why I don't believe billionaires should exist. I think it's immoral. But again, this idea is not new. This is the old Jay Gould. I could pay half the working class to murder the other half. We just need to make working people desperate. And look, you've got a corporate controlled media who's going to feed into this. So get ready for a lot of this messaging. Get ready for it. And we're seeing it. You're seeing it in all of the strike talk, especially the big stuff around, UPS, if you remember that. The Teamsters saying, look, we're going to go on strike. What did we hear about Sean O'Brien? Union boss. What are we hearing about Sean Fain over at the UAW? A democratically elected leader of a union. He's the union boss. He's not the boss. He's someone representing thousands of people and their interests. And what does the media never talk about? The massive profits that these workers put into the pockets of these corporations and these shareholders. And understand, and I keep saying this, Sean Fain did not pull the 46% increase in wages out of some back orifice. He pulled it right from the executive suite, because that's what the executives lined their pockets with over the last 4 years. So he's saying, look, if it's good enough for you, good enough for us. But understand our CEO mentality. You should be grateful. You should be happy to have a job. And look, this guy's, give him credit for at least being arrogant enough to come out and say it live. They are going to do everything they can do to cause pain across the economy, to put you working people back in your place. And the Republican Party is right there with them. Let me say that again. Our billionaire class wants you back in your place. Desperate, pliable, grateful to have a situation. Even if it doesn't make ends meet, even if you don't have the ability to save for your kids' college, even if you don't have the ability to save for your retirement, even if you don't get health care, you should be grateful because at least the scraps you're getting something. This kind of stuff should infuriate working people. And this is where I keep saying there is a divide. You've got to know which side you're on. And it's been a very long time in this country where you see a CEO coming out and saying, look, we want it. We demand it. Globally, we have to get people back into line. You working people. Because their profits are sacrosanct. We have to make sure that they're well heeled. So when the belt tightening happens, it's going to be your belt, not theirs. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got lots to get to. Quick break, right back.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Unions are making a comeback. More organizing in the last couple of years than in a long time. And the Biden administration being more supportive of unions than any president since FDR. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
So I find it interesting. George W. Bush back in the news. George was happy to find out that he survived because Yezhani Prigozhin, remember the guy who fell out of was a human lawn dart? The guy who tried to invade Russia with the Wagner Group and all that. Remember him? Yezhani Prigozhin, I guess his name is. Evidently, a picture has surfaced of him serving George W. Bush dinner. And W said, we kind of quipped of, well, all I know is I survived. Yeah, there you go. Now what's interesting, what I do find interesting is Putin has weighed in on charges against Trump. He says, quote, what's happening with Trump is a persecution of a political rival for political motives. He says this shows the whole rottenness of the American political system, which cannot claim to teach others about democracy. And I got to tell you, I find it cute that a guy who throws his political opponents out of windows and crashes planes is lecturing us about holding people accountable. And in fact, he probably ordered a journalist defenestrated moments before he made the claim. And who knows? Maybe he's back to his, what is it, polonium 210 tea cocktail that he gave Alexander Litnikov. Yeah, that's fine. But Trump, no, it's too far. Let's quick go to the phones. We've got Steve in Chicago on line one. Steve, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And just as an aside, I too find it interesting in terms of the murder of Prigozhin, because I often wonder who are the other people that were on that plane with him. I mean, if you find out that you're getting on a plane with Prigozhin, isn't that kind of like going to dinner with Jessica Fletcher for Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah.
I mean, like, wait, okay, like I stand a 1 in chance 4 of dying here, so why would I get on this plane? But like I said, just as an aside. But yeah, it's an important topic. This attitude that this gentleman expressed, I mean, yeah, as you said, give him credit. This is what people actually think, but don't say. He actually said it.
Yep.
And the reality is, this is the same sort of thing that if you go back in time, this is what feudalism was. You're lucky that I let you farm my land, and you get to eat, and you get to live in a hovel, and what do you have to complain about? And when you study people who have acquired great wealth, either they're born into it or they somehow acquired in the process of their life, they manage to convince themselves that they've earned it, that they're special. Even if they win the lottery, that they adopt this belief that, well, I was just meant to have this money. There must be something special about me.
I was chosen.
And especially, yeah, exactly, and especially within the framework of the Protestant ethic in this country that plays such a central role in defining, our work ethic and so forth. People actually believe that, that work and how much you make and so forth is part and parcel of the equation of whether or not you go to heaven and what kind of heaven you go to. So, this all is something that we've exploited in this society and this belief system. And obviously, there aren't enough super wealthy people in this country to make this a priority. So they have to, somehow make it so that average people vote their way. And it's been said by some, the problem with America, it makes everybody worry for the day that they're going to be rich. And this is how you get somebody who's working class, who's worried about, the fact that we might repeal the tax cuts for billionaires and people who make over $1 million. Why in heaven's name would you care? Because you're convinced that because when we poll people, a majority of people think that they're going to be in the top 10% in the next decade.
Yeah.
Now, that's obviously impossible. And if you're in the bottom 10% in this country, you have a 1 in 100 chance of moving into the top 10% in your life. So this idea that, you can just skyrocket yourself into that is ridiculous, let alone becoming part of the uber wealthy class.
Yeah.
And again, this is how you win elections, despite the fact that you represent interests that in no way, shape, or form are those that are shared by the vast majority of Americans. But instead you sell them on. They're trying to teach your kids trans stuff in school, and there's all of this stuff that's elevating African American history and the gay agenda, and you can go down a long list, and climate change. That's what you should worry about. Not whether or not there's going to be enough money in Social Security for you. Not whether or not there's going to be the fact that pensions have disappeared. What we're going to do with Medicare. No, don't worry about those things. Worry about whether or not there's some trans book in the library where your kid goes to school, because that's the big issue in your life.
No, and look, the reality is this is how you get to a point where, look at what's going on in Florida with the African American history courses. They benefited. It was actually a good thing. This is the billionaire mindset. Slavery was a good thing because they got skills. Steve, they got skills that they could use and made their lives better.
Yeah, as it's been said, before, rich people are different than the rest of us. They have money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you have money, I know we like to say, if money can't buy you happiness. That's true. Money can't buy you happiness. But all things being equal, it's a lot better to have a lot of money in this society than not. You have access to the best health care. You have access to the best food, the best housing, the best education. You don't have to worry about retirement. You don't have to worry about, your day-to-day obligations as far as your bills are concerned. Yeah, all things being equal, that's the case. And the reality is that, what exactly are we fighting for? I always believed that society had to progress over time, and that, after a certain number of generations that we were actually going to keep moving forward, and that there might come a time when you have this perfect storm in which technology, along with advancements in the way that we think, our ideology has changed. That we don't value the almighty dollar as the be all end all goal in life, and that there might be actually some shame in having too much. In the 19th century, when the robber barons had too much, a lot of them got the idea towards the end of their lives that, you know what, this is a bad idea. I don't look good in the press. I don't look good to the American people. So they decided to start giving it a lot of it away. And that's why you have Rockefeller Center and Carnegie this and blah, blah, blah. But with all due respect, it's nice that a lot of them gave that money away and to worthwhile causes. But it doesn't make up for the fact that they underpaid people, they exploited generations of people, they were responsible for the deaths of untold numbers of people in this country. So, yeah, you don't get to buy off America by giving a lot of your money away.
And they were tokens anyway.
Thought of that when you were making.
Exactly, but they were tokens anyway. I mean, it was nowhere near what they stole. And as I've said, behind every great billionaire, there's a great crime, and it usually starts with screwing their workers. Steve, I appreciate the call, though. Thanks, as always, great stuff. Let's go to line 2. We've got Alice over on line 2. Alice, how are you?
Insane.
What's on your mind?
You'd be disappointed if I said I was sane, wouldn't you?
Well, it's predictable, and that's a good thing. So what are you insane about today?
Oh, well, a couple of things, actually. Number one, I just found it vastly amusing that Putin is repeating the Republicans, and then the Republicans turn around and repeat Putin.
Yeah.
And I thought, do you think that we're all stupid, that we can't realize that you all are exchanging info here and using the same propaganda?
It's a hoax, Alex. It's all a hoax, Alex. Alice, big hoax.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then the second thing, I'm reading, in WAPO and listening to the news and whatnot, and, they're talking about the impeachment inquiry. And this just blew my mind. The specific thing that was said, that they're investigating to find out if Biden actually benefited from his son's business inquiry.
Right.
Not inquiries, but, business
dealings.
dealings.
So is that what they've settled on?
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Did we not just have half the Trump family involved in the government? And don't tell me that Trump didn't benefit from, Ivanka in China and the boys in Saudi Arabia and, whatnot. And I thought, you know what? Okay. I think it's time that we start investigating these questionable activities that were going on by the Trump kids.
Yeah. Well,
and
see, this impeachment will be different because Democrats will not back down, and I'm sure some of that will pop up. So we'll see. It should be fun and entertaining, if nothing else, because again, Republicans have shown us they've got nothing else.
Well, yeah, and considering you've got that James Comer, Jim Jordan, and then I forget what the other guy's name is, that are the three that's in charge, and I thought, oh, joy.
Let the fun begin. I appreciate the thoughts,
Have
Alice.
a good evening.
Thank you. No, this is, again, the reason I say this is this could be a major backfire. McCarthy has allowed the Kook caucus to take over. Didn't have a vote because he knows he doesn't have them, and let the moderates off the hook by not putting them on the record because he knew they would probably have to vote. Because understand, in California, there are 18 congressional districts that Biden won in 2020 where Republicans hold those seats. 18. If those 18, vote the wrong way, because these are fairly moderate districts, you could see a swing and Democrats could take the House just on this. And you got to think McCarthy knows that. But again, he's trying to hold on to his job because you've got the Matt Gaetzes of the world trying to throw him out. This is exactly what I said from the beginning. I hope McCarthy becomes speaker. I want him to have the headaches. I want him to have the acid reflux, all the stuff that comes with it. And let the fun begin. Also, Elon Musk did Putin praised Elon Musk for being an outstanding person and a talented businessman. And I would assume thanked him for shutting off Starlink so that the Ukrainian military couldn't attack the Russian ships. Do you think Putin would allow a Musk to exist in Russia? Do you think? Or do you think Musk would find a window? I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.